In this video, we are going to be assembling and installing a 5-stage R.O system. I hope this video guide, alongside the manual that came with your system, will help make your install go smoothly. I like to start with preparing the tank. The tank shutoff valve will be in the bottom of the box that the tank came in. Take the dust cover off and grab some Teflon tape. I like to put 5 rounds of Teflon tape on the threads to make a good seal. Once taped, install the tank shutoff. Hand tight is enough for the tank. You don't want to over tighten it as the valve can crack. Most tanks come with some air pressure in them, but it's normally not enough for proper operation. On the bottom of the tank, there is an air valve. It's the same type of valve that is on a car tire or bicycle tire. You can use a hand pump or an air compressor to refill the tank with air. First, check to see where the current pressure is at on the tank. We want to have 7 pounds of pressure for normal operation. If the tank is below 7 psi, add a little bit of air. It doesn't take much to fill it up. If you go over 7 pounds, let some air out until you hit 7 pounds. We find 7 pounds of pressure gives you the best pressure at the tap with a good quantity of water in the tank. Now, on to getting all the parts out and putting the filters in. We have a manual, the R.O membrane, a pack of O-rings with spares, and a bag of small parts. In the second layer of the box, we have our line, filter canisters and filters, also the wrenches for the canisters themselves and the membrane housing. Once everything unpacked, we are going to install the membrane. Move the top carbon filter over to the side, disconnect the single line going into the membrane housing. To remove the line, slide the blue locking clip out and push the outer ring in towards the fitting. This will release the line from the fitting. Pop the membrane housing out of its filter and unscrew the cap. The membrane is the long blue filter in a sealed bag. Do not touch it with your bare hands. The oils and greases from your hand will eat away at the membrane and shorten its lifespan. The best way to install the membrane is to cut the end of the bag and use it as a glove to slide the membrane in. Once in, use a pair of pliers to give it a slight push and twist to make sure the membrane is all the way in. Take some food grade grease and apply it to the O-ring at the end of the membrane housing where the cap screws on it. In the bag that has the small parts in it, there should be a pack of small food grade silicone grease. You can now screw the membrane cap back on and tighten with the wrench provided. Reconnect your water line and blue locking clip. The filters come in the canisters and need to be unwrapped. Look for the sediment filter first. It's a paper mesh filter and is pure white. We'll be installing the filters from right to left, and in the same direction that the water flows through the systems. Take the plastic off the filters and drop it into the canister. Then grab an O-ring from the package of O-rings, grease them up with the same silicone grease that we used before. Place the O-ring in the slot on top of the filter canister. Next, we'll prepare the carbon filters. These next 2 filters are the same, and they will go in the middle and left spot on the R.O system. With these 2 carbon filters, the process will be the same. Take the plastic off the outside of the filter, place the filter in the canister, grease the O-rings, and place them on top of the canister. With all the canisters ready to go, we can install the filters onto the main part of the R.O system. Start with the sediment filter on the right side of the system and screw it into place. Then the next filter, and the last one. Once all the filters are installed, take the filter wrench that came with the system to tighten the filters. Note, you don't need to go super tight, just tight. There are 4 plugs that cover where the lines attach the system. To take them out, we need to push the outer part of the fitting into the fitting and pull out the plug. For the plug locations, there is 2 on either side of the carbon filter on top, the right side beside the sediment filter, and at the flow restrictor on top near the back. Now the plugs are out, you can either attach the line to the system now or once it's in place under the counter. In this video, I'm going to attach the lines now so you can see where they go. In this box, there'll be one spool of 1/4 inch poly line. You will need to cut this to use it for both the feed water and the drain water. At this moment, I'm hooking up the feed water to the right side of the system. The next line is for the tank, and I'll be attaching it to the top of the system. It'll be attaching to the T on the carbon filter. You'll know you're on the right side when there's another line coming into it already. On the other side of the top carbon filter, there's a 90-degree elbow. This fitting, you will attach the line that goes up to the tap. The last line will be the drain water that will be coming out of the flow restrictor near the back of the system on top. With the system ready, we need to add the feed water valve. It is the T with both sides threaded, and it has a blue lever on it. For most installs, you will need to tighten the two pieces together before installing. Turn off the water going to your cold water tap. Once the water is turned off and you release the pressure from that line by opening the tap, you can disconnect the braided hose from your house's water pipe. Start by threading the braided line onto the T, but don't tighten it all the way. Now thread the T onto the household pipe. As you tighten the T onto this pipe, tighten the braided line as well, as it will loosen off as you spin the T onto the pipes. Once hand tight, tighten it slightly more with a pair of pliers. Now for the drain saddle. It comes in two parts and clamps onto your drain pipe. You can clamp it before or after your drain trap. Note, if you put the drain saddle before your drain trap, you may hear water running into the trap when the system is running. I like to put it after the trap if there is room. Evenly screw the two bolts onto the drain pipe. It is best to keep the drain saddle hole facing upwards a little bit. Once you tighten it down, we're going to need to drill a hole into the drain pipe. Make sure you take the compression nut off and keep that for a later step before you drill. Use a 1/4 inch drill bit and drill straight through the drain saddle hole and into the pipe. Time to drill the hole in your sink or countertop. If you have marble or granite countertops, you will need to have a professional company come and drill the holes, as they use special drill bits to make sure it doesn't crack. If you are drilling into a stainless steel sink or wood countertop, you can do it yourself. Place the cosmetic hole cover to decide where you're going to put your tap, and mark it with a marker. Make sure you check under the sink to see where the R.O tap's going to come through, and make sure you're clear of the sink and any other lines or equipment that might be underneath. I find a step-up bit works best for drilling the hole through the countertop. If you don't have a step-up bit, you can use normal metal drill bits and you work your way through the sizes. Take your time with this process and work your way up to a 1/2 inch or a 5/8 hole for your R.O tap. To install the tap, we start with a small rubber gasket, then the metal cosmetic hole cover, large rubber gasket. This is all the parts that will go on top of the counter. Place the tap into the hole you've drilled. Your tap will swivel 360 degrees, and you can choose what side you would like the handle to be on. On the bottom side of the counter, you will need to install the hard plastic ring, lock washer, and the nut. Once hand tight, you will need to tighten down the nut. I use a 3/8 socket with an extension to reach underneath the sink and countertop. Enough that the tap will not move if you try to twist it by hand. You can now hand screw on the tap adapter. We are now ready to install the system under your counter. I like to stick the tank in first into the back corner. The tank can stand upright or lie down, whichever works best for your situation. It can also be in the next cupboard over if that's where there is room. It's best if you hang your system on the cabinet wall, but you can leave it sitting on the filters if need be. If your system has a booster pump on it, you will need to hang it on the wall as there is too much weight for the filter cartridges. We're almost done. We just need to hook up the lines now. We have the feed water coming off the T and going into the right side of your system with a 1/4 inch line. Next up is the drain line. Grab that compression nut that came off the drain saddle, push it onto the end of the drain line. Let the drain line stick out a little bit and screw it onto the drain saddle. The line that is coming off your last filter will be heading up to your tap that you just installed. Last but not least, hook up the tank to the T that is before the last filter on top of your system. With everything hooked up and ready to go, open the tap to allow air to come out of the system while you're pressuring it up. Slowly open the valve on the feed water T. Only open it about a third of the way to allow water to start flowing in the system without pressuring up the system too fast. Allow 2 to 5 minutes for the system to fill up and start flowing water out of the tap. When the water starts coming out of the tap, there'll be a very little amount at this time. Once water starts coming out, you can open your feed water valve fully. Shut the tap and the tank off to allow the system to pressure up. Once you know there are no leaks on the system, open the tank valve and allow the tank to fill up with water. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to fill. After an hour, open your tap and allow the tank to drain fully. This will give all your filters a good flush before use, including the membrane and your last carbon filter. You may get a little bit of black carbon coming out when you first open the tap. Now that the system's been installed and flushed, you are good to use your RO system. I hope this guide helped assist you in installing your RO system.